Stop building wooden boxes. If you want your Minecraft world to look like a thriving kingdom and not just a temporary shelter, you have to master depth and texture. So this video, we are officially in week 6 of our village roadmap, and today we are moving on to the next steps of village building. So from this point forward, we are moving from industry to population. That means we are finally filling in the empty land between your builds with actual life. So today I'm going to show you how to build the perfect medieval starter peasant house, specifically designed for a fisherman character. If you're ready to turn that empty plot of land into a home, grab your building materials, and let's get to work. Welcome back to the village. If you've been following our 16-week blueprint, you've spent the last month building up your economy. The lumber mill, the quarry, the blacksmith, and as of last week, roads and bridges to establish proper travel. But a village isn't a village without villagers. This marks the start of Phase 2, housing. The biggest mistake I see most people make here is they build 10 identical houses in a row. That looks modern and that looks very artificial. Instead, we are building with purpose. This isn't just house number 1, this is the fisherman's house. Why? Well, because it's right next to the water, obviously. It uses very early game materials like barrels and net racks as details. And, to be honest, it really sets the scale for the rest of the peasant district. So with this build, we are keeping this survival friendly. That means no quartz, no end rods, no late game materials. Just wood, stone, and a bit of architectural theory. The hardest items to obtain here is going to be the cobwebs. So if you don't want to find them or you haven't found them in your world yet, you can easily just skip them for now and then add them back in whenever you stumble upon an abandoned mine shaft or even a stronghold. So for this house, we're going to break this down into 4 main steps: the framework, the walls, the roof, and the story. By the end of this video, you won't just have a house, you'll have a template you can modify for the rest of your entire village. Let's start with the most critical rule of medieval building. Depth creates realism. Never build your walls and your frame on the same layer. The upside to this is it makes your build far more interesting to look at with the shadows. The downside is that it requires a bigger footprint, and that means more materials. So I already have it marked out here, but you need to start by making a rectangle that is 9 blocks by 11 blocks. Remember, since the walls are stepped in 1 block, the interior is going to be 2 blocks smaller than the starting dimensions. So with that in mind, this house is smaller than it looks, which makes it more manageable, but also big enough for a starter base if you're playing in survival. Now, on one side, you need to go and add in a square 7x7 extension. This can be used for an entryway or even a storage area later on. But this breaks up that boxy shape immediately. So for the frame, we're going to be using oak logs as always. Place a log pillar at every corner, going 5 blocks high. Here's the key whenever you build houses like this. These pillars are going to be the skeleton of your house, and then your walls will actually set 1 block behind them, not flush with them. This is what's going to give us that 1 block depth that catches shadows and makes the build really pop. Now with the pillars done, we need to connect all of the pillars with horizontal logs. Now if you're building this on uneven terrain, which I do highly recommend for realism, extend the foundation logs down to the ground until they hit solid dirt. Do not bring the dirt up to the house. Never leave floating logs though either. Now since this is a fisherman's house near the water, you might even want to drag some of these pillars down into the river and make it look like it's anchored to the riverbed. It really does anchor it to the environment, and it looks like this build was built into the environment instead of on top of the environment. Now that the skeleton frame is down, we're going to move on to the walls. The most amateur move here is to fill these gaps with oak planks and just call it a day. Do not do that. Planks are visually noisy and extremely repetitive. So what we're going to do is, just like our previous builds, we're going to go and use stone as our primary wall material. I always come in later and texturize it with the variation blocks, but you can easily do it while you're placing them for the first time if that makes it easier for you. Now once the walls are done, we need windows. Keep them as small as possible. So glass was very expensive in medieval times, and we aren't building floor-to-ceiling panoramic windows here. So punch out a single block or even a 2-block hole in your wall, but try to keep it 1 block higher than ground level. On cheaper houses built like this one, instead of glass blocks, you can actually use fences. Fences look like they allow air through, which would have been necessary in medieval times, and they definitely give the build a more rustic look. When it comes to medieval builds, the roof is where a build lives or dies. For this style, we're going to go with the classic A-frame, but we're going to add in a very important touch: overhangs. So just like our other builds, we're going to use dark oak stairs and planks for the trim, because the darker wood outlines the shape of these houses very nicely. A good tip is to start with the main body of the house. So we're going to place stairs and planks in the normal configuration, where it's a forward facing one, an upside down one, and then a full block. We can also modify this pattern to raise or lower the height of the roof by adding in just normal stair block, upside down stair, stair block, upside down stair before you start adding in the full planks of wood. But, and this is crucial, extend the roof 1 block past the wall on the front and the back. This is what's known as a gable overhang. Realistically, it would protect the walls from rain and windows for that matter, and it adds in more of that delicious depth we've been talking about. So once you have your roof outline, you need to fill it in. So for the inner part of this roof, I'm using Deepslate because it matches the rest of the building style for this village, and it's extremely accessible in survival. Now, similar to the stone foundation, this will also need to be randomized, this time with every single Deepslate variation you can get your hands on. This implies a worn and weathered look, which is absolutely great for implying age and weathering. You can also use hay bales and yellow wool if you want a thatch look, and for a fisherman, thatch would often make sense, but for this build, I'm going to stick to the established village look. Now, a very simple detail that you don't need to forget is a chimney. This is a fisherman, and he needs to smoke his fish. So pick a corner, run a, well, in this case it's going to be cobblestone, tube up through the roof, and top it with a campfire surrounded by trapdoors. That's going to make a smoke trail, and in this instance, that smoke trail is a dynamic element that signifies life and movement in this city. Sorry guys, this should have been done earlier whenever we did the walls, and I completely forgot about it somehow. But in the corners of where the pillar logs connect to the crossbeam logs here, we're going to need to put upside down spruce stairs, shelf blocks, and trapdoors in this configuration here. Just go around the build, and every time that you have a corner there, add in this design. So with the chimney thrown in there, that finishes out the house. But that means we have a house and not a home. So this is where we add in the story. This is a fisherman's house, and so far there's absolutely nothing to dictate that other than me telling you that that's what it's supposed to be. Detail is crucial. Outside of the front door, we need clutter. So place a few barrels in varying directions out front, along with some chests. These are to signify salting fish. Use fences connected with cobwebs to create net racks. You can also place extinguished campfires around to look like firewood piles, or you can actually place fish on them and it makes it look like a drying rack. It actually looks exactly like fish drying in the sun. Also, since we are near water, I'm going to add in a small rickety dock back behind this building, extending out into the water. You can use slabs or trapdoors for this for the dock's platform. That way it makes it thinner and it makes it feel a lot closer to the water. Now, if you're in survival, you can also park your boats here, and I would suggest placing some chests around here with fishing rods or other items that you need to do some fishing. You can also definitely add a net and some more barrels down here to really clutter up the area. And there it is. from a flat patch of grass to a functional, storied fisherman's cottage. This build uses simple materials, wood, hay, and stone, but the way we layered them creates something far more complex and beautiful. Now with this house being completed, you have officially started phase 2. Your village now has a population of 1, but don't stop there. You need more and more villagers to fill out this village. Apply these house building techniques and add 3 to 5 or however many houses that you want, but remember different shapes and rotations to add variation. Next week, in week 7, we're scaling it up. We're going to be building the social hub of the village, the tavern, and you definitely don't want to miss that interior design class. If this tutorial helped you lay the first brick of your housing district, hit that like button. Comment below though, what name do you want to give this fisherman who lives here? I'll pin the best one down below and pull it up in the next video. Remember guys, keep building, and I'll see you later and catch you on the next one.